So, the circle is if your weird uncle who freaked out that Facebook suggested him friends that he knew in real life decided to write a Black Mirror episode inspired by 1980s anti-communist propaganda. Or as Betsy Morais from The New Yorker put it, it's a novel, though his novel, with his anxieties. It's the account of an observer, not a participant. No, but really, Dave Eggers was inspired to write this book because someone in real life confronted him and was like, "Hey, I saw that you read my email and didn't respond." He was so mind-boggled at the idea of read receipts that he decided to write a 500-page book about it. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Cheyenne and I'm an Asian American adoptee and expat living in Brazil. I post new videos every Tuesday and Friday about race, feminism, and pop culture, so if you're into that, please subscribe and ring the bell. So I really enjoy speculative fiction and the satire that it usually presents. I really love 1984, The Handmaid's Tale, Black Mirror, at least the good episodes, and I really thought I was going to like The Circle, but boy was I wrong. So I decided that I'd talk about why it doesn't work here and put the points in a numbered list. So let's go. So number 1, what is The Circle about? The Circle is a speculative fiction book by Dave Eggers that centers around this Google/Facebook-like company called The Circle. The main character, May Holland, isn't a programmer or even that into social media, but hates her current job where she doesn't feel like she's making a difference in the world. May's main motivation in the story is that she wants to be known and remembered and do something worthwhile, which is why she wants to join The Circle, a company that's making change in the world. Annie, her best friend, works at the upper echelon of The Circle, as she's a member of the Gang of 40. Yeah, the nod to Mao's communist China isn't subtle. There's red everywhere, the C in the middle of the logo, etc. Anyway, Annie gets May a job at customer service and she's put to work, and she's also ranked daily on her performance on a scale of 0 to 100. She needs to maintain a 97 to keep her boss happy, and she's also ranked on social media. This is her party rank, or participation rank. Again, the communist allegory is not subtle. Party rank ranks her presence on social media, as The Circle is all about community and socializing, but of course her boss tells her that this isn't part of her job. She's not obligated to take part in party activities, but it's highly encouraged, which of course means she better freaking do it. At first, May thinks it's absurd that she needs to log every moment of her life online, and is shocked at how offended the people at The Circle are when she says that she doesn't think her life is worth sharing in the first place. But in the end, they guilt her into it and say things like, "Don't you think your personal information could be valuable to someone else? Why would you withhold that? Why are you so antisocial? Do you have a self-esteem problem? Is that why you're so unsure about sharing things about yourself online?" It's these random bad faith criticisms that The Circle uses to get people to share way too much about themselves on social media. And May, being the eager to please puppy that she is for the entire freaking book, doesn't ever question The Circle ever again. So I actually really do like this work commentary that Eggers gives when, your boss gives you work to do that you're not obligated to do, but you also totally are. But the book really starts to fall apart in my second point, which is his terrible, lazy social media commentary. Sharing on social media in the book is put under the guise of we care about what you have to say, when in reality, we just want to steal your data. And it's like, haven't heard that before. May then becomes obsessed with ranking number 1 on social media, when just a few pages earlier, she really couldn't care less about it. I guess it's because it's part of her job, but also we know that we get a rush of dopamine every time we share things about ourselves online. But this is also part of the problem with the book. We never get to see shades of gray or even have nuanced conversations. You're either May, who nonstop shares things about herself online, or her ex, Mercer, who lives like a hermit in the woods. And Dave Eggers doesn't want us to have nuanced conversations about how social media can be positive for marginalized groups, for instance, because then The Circle would be good, actually. Instead, he makes fun of how specific some of the groups online's names are, as if it's sad that so many people find safe spaces online. He doesn't even bring up the fact that this surveillance state is only a fear white cis-het people would have, because we know that Black and people of color and LGBTQ+ people are the ones really being surveilled online, and suffer from racist and homophobic algorithms. Also, Edgar's commentary on social media just shows how much he doesn't really get social media. For example, your party rank gets higher the more groups you join, the more likes you give, the more comments you leave, and the more people you follow, when we all know in real life it's the exact opposite. In fact, the most famous people on social media usually follow the least amount of people as possible. But Eggers needs to twist social media around in order to fit his "the circle is evil though" narrative. So therefore, everyone in the book needs to be sharing things about themselves 24/7, when in the real world, no one actually posts that much about themselves. And in reality, we really tend to think about what we post online before posting it. We don't do this stuff just willy-nilly. There's this weird scene in the book where May forgets to RSVP to a party, and the offended host confronts her and is like, "Why didn't you RSVP to my party?" And it's like, no one does this. Social media never really transcends into real life. They're two separate spheres, and no matter how much you want to connect them in your book, they will never be the same. I know Eggers said in an interview that he was inspired to write The Circle because someone confronted him and was like, "Hey, I saw that you read my email and didn't respond." Like, that's just the internet, Dave. Read receipts are a thing, and no, it doesn't create spies in everyone. They just want to know why you didn't respond. It's not that deep. And if you forgot to respond or just didn't have time, just say that. Most people don't sit at their computers spying on people online when everything is already out there for us to see. There is a creepy element where people can just look you up and stuff, but most people know that information about them will become public when signing up for the internet. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Also, most people online and in real life know that it's okay if you don't have time to respond to everything. We had that really funny viral copy and paste message that went, "Are you in the right headspace to receive information that could possibly hurt you?" And yeah, as funny as that was, and it was rightfully mocked, the conversation of, "Hey, it's okay, we know that you have a lot going on and you don't need to respond right away," has already been covered. Dave, just tell him that you're busy and that you'll get to it later. It's not that weird. May continues to climb the ranks at her job and also on social media, but of course this alienates her from her friends and family who tell her that she spends too much time on her phone. Oh wow, such biting commentary. It reminds me of that look-up video from 2014.
I have 422 friends, yet I'm lonely. I looked around and realised that this media we call social is anything but. When you step away from this device of delusion, you awaken to see a world of confusion. Step away from the phone. You don't need to stare at your menu or at your contact list. Just talk to one another. Learn to coexist.
And it's such deep, very insightful. We get it, the screens are the devil. As New York Times critic Ellen Ullman put it, the words author's message flash above the scene, as they do above too many others. So, number 3, technology no one would ever want. In the meantime, the Circle continues to develop new technologies, and we're introduced to every single one. One of the first technologies that the Circle creates, which actually predates the start date of the book, is True You, which basically means that the Circle has a monopoly on the internet. All sites are operated by the Circle, and all monetary transactions online are also controlled by them. You only have one login and one name, your government name, for every single thing you do online. And honestly, that doesn't really make any sense if you know how websites and browsers work, but okay. And of course, since everyone has to use their real government name, trolling has been eradicated. And it's has Eggers ever even been on Facebook where people are mean to each other all the time when using their real names? To quote Gray McMillan from Wired, "Yes, that's right. In Eggers' world, only trolls and porno fans want the right to remain anonymous on the internet. When forced to use real names, all comment boards became civil, all posters held accountable. Because, as we all know, there's no way boorish arguments could possibly start between people who know each other's names. That would be ludicrous." Come on, Eggers. Also, people, especially vulnerable members of our society, like being anonymous online, not just trolls. And maybe this is on purpose, Eggers wants us to find flaws in the Circle, but True You is presented as a good thing. But later we find out that the Circle is actually bad, though, and a thinly veiled allegory for communism and not some free-thinking liberal company. And of course that Eggers believes that we should be able to be anonymous online and have privacy, But this true you thing is so easy to tear down that it really sparks no debate at all. As Gray McMillan put it in his interview for Wired, in his desire to create a world where the circle rules all, Eggers creates so many extremely unlikely or outright impossible scenarios that happen simply because he needs them to happen. As they stack up throughout the course of the book, it gets harder and harder to take it seriously, even as satire, until finally it becomes outright fantasy with only a tenuous connection to reality as we know it. In the same interview where Eggers said that he got the idea for the circle when someone confronted him about not responding to his email, he said that he's not trying to write a cautionary tale, but just show us the world we're living in already. And to that I ask, why put true you in at all then? It doesn't exist now and probably never will, so what's the point? And this is my biggest beef with the book, that it continues to present technology that no one would ever really want or go for, on the right or the left. And when there's no debate or no interesting technology to keep us invested, we're just left with very bland and boring characters. Again, to quote Gray McMillan's review, the book's biggest fault, however, is that it's boring. Unrealistic tech and lack of subtlety can be forgiven if you're invested in the story. For all of Eggers' gifts as a writer, including some lovely prose and surprising humor, The Circle lacks anything resembling tension or excitement. All we have is May, whose motivation is simply to become famous, and Mercer, again, her ex, who lives off the grid in the forest somewhere. Another technology that is later introduced in the book are these microscopic cameras that the Circle is trying to put all over the world because, as the company's slogan states, all that happens must be known. And though May knows that the Circle has put cameras everywhere, she steals a kayak anyway and is later arrested. The kayak owner doesn't press charges, but the Circle does. So this is a good place to just pause and talk about who owns the Circle. So the Circle is owned by the three wise men. There's the straight-faced finance guy, Stenton, Ty, the boy genius modeled after Mark Zuckerberg, that didn't age well, and Bailey, the face of the company and loving uncle of America, modeled somewhat after Steve Jobs and Walt Disney. And Bailey, the third wise man, is the one we hear from the most. He is obsessed with knowing everything in the world, he hates secrets, and he thinks that privacy is thievery. As Eggers writes in his Orwellian homage, secrets are lies, sharing is caring, privacy is theft. So May is called into Bailey's office and she's confronted about why she stole the kayak. She said that she thought no one would find out that she stole it and that she was going to give it back after she took it, but that doesn't satisfy Bailey. Bailey then goes on this really long rant about how privacy and secrets are bad because we shouldn't be ashamed of things or hide things, and that secrets shouldn't exist. We're clearly not supposed to agree with Bailey as he's the villain, but instead of making an argument any real person would agree with, or bringing up any interesting debate topics or something that we could think about, Eggers instead goes for his most outlandish argument yet. Bailey then shares that his brother is gay, and that after he came out of the closet and was accepted by his family, it was a huge relief, and that he was just hiding in the closet for nothing, and that if all the gay people in the world just came out, homophobia would be eradicated. And it's like, can you just stop? And this is the part that gets me the most heated. Like, who is this argument for? Is it for the left? Because I don't think any liberal would be like, yes, homophobia would be solved if gay people just came out of the closet. And I don't even think that this argument is for the right, because most people on the right would be like, no, please stay in the closet, we hate gay people. So it's like, Bailey then says that whenever he thinks of doing something bad or hiding something, he thinks about what his wife would say or do. And it's like, if you need to think that someone's constantly watching you to be a good person, you're probably not a good person. But May, of course, doesn't see any of this and actually 100% agrees with what Bailey says. Then Bailey convinces May to wear a body cam and live stream her life 24/7 in order to become a better person. Because one of the reasons why the Circle has implemented these microscopic cameras all over the world, and even on politicians, because yeah, politicians would totally agree with wearing body cams, is to stop crime and corruption. Firstly, like I said, no one would ever agree to this, and also I really hate this argument of you are who you are when no one's watching, because it implies that humans are inherently evil. Secondly, the Circle, a company that's supposedly liberal and occupied with liberal thinkers, aren't doing anything to stop poverty or racism, which is the real cause of crime. Nor does anyone in the circle want to abolish the police or prisons. So it just makes me really frustrated that the circle is this liberal company when no one on the left actually thinks that body cams can solve anything. It gets even weirder when you know that Eggers is actually anti-Trump because he makes all these jabs at liberals on the internet when he himself is a liberal. But then there's like this whole other layer because the circle as a company doesn't represent liberal idealism, but rather is an evil company that wants to take over the entire world. And obviously the circle is implementing these cameras not to stop crime, but to catch people doing crimes and to stop people from being their true selves. The next technology that's introduced in the book is this thing called child track, which basically means a whole new generation of Americans are getting chips implemented into their bones so their parents can track them. Not only would no one agree to that, it's put under this guise of let's protect the children, when in reality all the circle wants and is doing is creating a new trackable generation for them to control. But of course, there is almost no pushback against this. There is like this one politician that is like, the circle's a monopoly, but then she gets silenced like within the first 300 pages and she's not even a main character in the book. No one really sees past the circle's ruse until like the last 20 or so pages, and by that time it's like just an info dump and also too late. And we don't even know why the circle wants to do what they do or are doing what they do. I mean, it seems like the motivation is money, but in reality, their plan is just world domination. Like, how boring and uninspired is that? One of Bailey's arguments to get May to wear a body cam 24/7 is that he has a child with CP, and he says that people who are disabled can't see the world like ableds can, so we're hiding something from the world if we don't film ourselves 24/7. And it's like, why don't you just make traveling more accessible? It's also important to remember that May and this other employee at the circle are the only ones who are wearing body cams 24/7, as well as like some politicians, but that's it. Bailey and the other CEOs are not wearing body cams, and May never thinks to like question this at all. May wears the body cam and only turns off the audio when she goes to the bathroom, which doesn't really make any sense because Bailey said one of the pros of wearing the body cam is that we normalize things, so why can't we normalize farting? This plot contrivance only exists because May needs to have secret convos with Annie in the bathroom, and Annie is slowly driven mad by all the work that she's given at the circle. Annie also ends up canceling herself because she creates this technology that can trace your family tree back and your DNA back for generations, and it's discovered that she's descended from slave owners. Anyway, this technology already exists, but that's besides the point. The real point is that people start dogpiling on Annie because of her relatives, and it's like, Eggers, do you even know what cancel culture is? Cancel culture, firstly, doesn't really affect people who are famous or who have enough money to live off the grid and don't need a social media presence, but also, most people don't get canceled for having slave owners in their family tree. We find out that white actors have had slave owners in their family tree all the time and no one cares. I mean, yeah, it's shitty when they want to cover it up because they're so afraid of cancel culture and the liberal mobs, but really they have like nothing to be afraid of. Usually the people complaining the loudest about cancel culture are the ones that have nothing to lose. Ben Affleck and Anderson Cooper will be fine. I mean, Anderson Cooper came from the Vanderbilts. Like, what do you expect? If you're white in America, you probably have slave owners in your family tree, but don't worry, there are no angry liberal mobs that are going to try to ruin your life because of it. But no, in Eggers' book, everyone in the entire world, millions of people, are trying to cancel Annie, this girl that they've never even met before or know who she is. And even there's like this one part where like this commenter who's African American is like, Annie is evil and she should repent. And it's like, no one would ever say or do this. Honestly, the social media commentary made me wonder what political side Eggers is really on. Even though he declares himself as a liberal, he seems to be like that conservative uncle that hates all forms of social media and the SJWs on it. Eggers also goes on like this whole rant about how signing petitions online isn't real activism and that people only use activism online for clout. And yeah, that happens sometimes, but people are already having those conversations. People are talking about how to be more politically active and to not use causes for clout. I think Eggers thinks that people online are like mindless sheeple that haven't really thought about the consequences of social media and the cloud and how everything online is permanent. And it's like, dude, just calm down. We're smarter than you think. Just try to have more faith in humanity, please. We've been listening to What's Online is Forever since we were kids. And honestly, Eggers didn't even do a lot of research when writing this book. He didn't visit any tech campuses, and he didn't even research what the cloud was. He just knows that he doesn't like it. When asked if he went to Silicon Valley to do research for his book, Eggers said, "There was a point where I thought I should tour some of the tech campuses, but because I wanted this book to be free of any real-life corollaries, I decided not to. I've never been to Google or Facebook or Twitter or any other internet campus actually. I didn't interview any employees of these companies either, and didn't read any books about them. I didn't want to be influenced by any one extant company or any actual people. But I've been living in the Bay Area for the most of the last 20 years, so I've been very close to it all for a long time." Like, the hubris of white cis het male authors is mind-boggling. There's this one scene in the book where May goes down to the basement of the circle and sees the cloud, and it's like this big red box. Again, to quote Graeme McMillan, Eggers, who has given interviews boasting about the lack of research he engaged in before starting the book, writes about technology and the tech world with an air of a man who just, isn't really sure about what the internet really means. All throughout the book, there are strange moments that demonstrate his lack of research, like supposedly tech-savvy characters who don't understand that information in the cloud doesn't need server storage. There is some interesting commentary, the barrage of news and notifications is overwhelming sometimes, but most people aren't May and don't have millions of eyeballs on them at all times. Like, most of us barely get 2 notifications per day. And again, the harms of social media have already been talked about to death. The Circle just ends up being a 500-page PSA about screens being bad. And then when you're done, you just end up wondering, who is this book for? And at the end, it's very obvious. It's for people who are already afraid of social media and the internet. Graeme McMillan writes, "Ironically, the Circle comes across like one of the internet trolls that Eggers promises no longer exists in his fictional world, entirely convinced of its righteousness, unafraid to use strawman arguments to prove its points, and completely disinterested in dialogue when the polemic is easier. It's something that will be gratefully received by those who already agree with the arguments it puts forward, but met with disappointment and disinterest by everyone else." But people who already agree with him are not the people that Eggers wants to preach to. He wants us, the liberal activists, to be engaged with this work when no, you're just showing your ignorance. Liberals don't like big tech companies, and neither do people on the right. And what's really annoying is his social media commentary that he just seems to be making up as he goes along. Anyway, towards the end of the book, May is streaming to upwards of 1 billion people. Don't these people have jobs? She doesn't even really do anything interesting anyway in her live streams. She just walks around the campus of the Circle kind of aimlessly, and it's like, Eggers, have you even ever watched a live stream? So, number 4, the race commentary. In the last 50 or so pages of the book, we get some race commentary with some even more technology that Eggers introduces us to. He introduces us to these contact lenses that cops would wear to instead show people's past criminal records and cover the people in red and yellow depending on how bad their past was. But that doesn't work because most black and brown people who have criminal records because of racism. And of course, no cop would ever agree to wear these contacts. They don't even like body cams, so who's to say about vision-altering contact lenses? I know that this is supposed to be a bad idea on purpose, but this is what makes the book so boring. It offers no nuance and no debate. Just May, who wants to reach 1 million likes on her live stream. Also, no one on the right would agree with these contacts because freedom, and on the left, we want to abolish police and prisons, not reform policing. Again, who is this for? And then another technology is introduced that's basically a fire alarm for domestic violence. You'd put these detectors in your home that measure rage levels, and if the rage levels get too high, it alerts the cops and your neighbors. And it's like, Eggers, what do you want me to say to this? It's obvious that that wouldn't solve domestic violence, and Eggers knows that and wants us to agree with him. And yeah, we do, because it's an absurd thing, and it's made to be that way on purpose. Again, what is the debate? Technology is bad? Yeah, I think we got that within the first 300 pages, Eggers. And then the creme de la creme, the worst thing that Eggers can think of the Circle doing is merging itself with the US government websites to automatically sign up people to vote and make voting mandatory. Like, oh, the horror. And yeah, I get it, there is a conflict of interest because it's the private sector merging itself with the public, and I guess the Circle would know what party we're on and who we're voting for. But making voting mandatory and signing up people to vote and making it easier isn't bad. And we do know that having one company control all the information is bad. I mean, we've seen it in the 2016 election, but I'll give Eggers the benefit of the doubt because this book came out in 2013 and he doesn't really have that hindsight. But still, I think we already know how bad it can get and that we need to be wary of that. So this cautionary tale, really didn't age that well. And honestly, he says that it's not even a cautionary tale, so I don't know. But the fact that this is the Circle's big evil plan, getting people to vote, honestly made me laugh. At the end of the book, May needs to choose between joining the resistance and her lover or staying true to the Circle, and of course she chooses the Circle. As Ellen Ullman from the New York Times put it, May then is not a victim but a dull villain. Her motivations are teenage internet petty, getting the highest ratings, moving into the center of the Circle, being popular. She presents a plan that will enclose the world within the Circle's reach, but she exhibits no complex desire for power, only a longing for the approval of the wise men. She is more of a high school mean girl than an evil opponent. Perhaps this is what Eggers wants to say, that evil in the future will look more like the trivial May than it will be the hovering dark eye of Big Brother. If so, he should have worked much harder to express this profound thought. The characters need substance. May must be more than a cartoon. I think May turning to the dark side is supposed to be like a twist, but in the end it just comes off as lame and predictable. May has been obsessed and enamored by the Circle from day one, and Eggers presents no evidence that she would ever betray them. So, number 5, my alternate endings. In the end, it's hard to engage with the Circle because Eggers thinks that he's writing this very profound and insightful satirical commentary on modern day, when in reality it just comes off as very uninformed. He didn't do his research, and the book mainly just consists of presenting technology after technology and saying why it's bad, actually. There's no debate on whether this technology could be good because all of the characters are either brainwashed by the Circle or are living off the grid in the woods. It's even harder to understand who this book is for because he seems to want to critique totalitarianism and more specifically communism, but to do that he needs to make jabs at SJWs because at first we see the Circle as a free-thinking liberal company. So it's like, who is he really attacking? Totalitarianism/communism or SJWs, because to him, they seemingly are like the same thing. In the end, the Circle is more of a critique of the progressive left rather than totalitarianism or communism. And that's honestly mind-boggling to me because it does seem as though Eggers wants to reach a younger and more progressive demographic, but it comes off as really bad and it really fails because Eggers doesn't really know what the left is nor wants. He doesn't seem to get that by attacking communism and SJWs that he's alienating the audience that he really wants to preach to, people on the far left. This book instead plays up fears about cancel culture and the internet and social media, I guess, which has already been talked to death about in 2020. The book really does heavily lean into the cancel culture is scary argument that has already been, again, talked to death about in 2020, but because Eggers doesn't frequent the internet, he wouldn't really know that. And of course, Eggers also brings up the fear of tech monopolies, which both the right and left are not for. So I guess we can engage with the book on that level, but the book isn't really about tech monopolies per se. Yeah, there's a passing mention of the Circle being a monopoly, but it's more about the world the Circle creates and the tech they develop, and not the corporation itself. I also find it very insincere that Eggers loves to say that he's writing about today and this isn't a cautionary tale, when it's clearly an homage to 1984, which was an exaggerated cautionary tale. Not only do we get the Big Brother is watching you aspect of Orwell's novel in The Circle, we also get the very intense slogans, but without any of their heart. Orwell's book is about how language can change the way we think, and that if we change the language we use, it will change our thoughts. But Eggers just throws these three slogans together without really understanding why they worked so well in 1984. For it to have worked, The Circle needed a really intense twist that didn't hinge on May choosing between her lover or the circle, but rather a huge time jump. Like maybe 20 years in the future, everyone in the world is live streaming themselves, but no one is watching each other and the world is in flames. Or maybe we find out that like aliens are watching them from an outer planet. Or like maybe Bailey's an alien. Or maybe, and I think that this is the best option, it could end like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There are multiple scenes when May hears her own voice called to her in her ear. It's a recording she made of her own voice for her customer service headset to remind her to keep working if she gets distracted or spends too much time away from her screen. However, the recording sounds like a better version of her, someone with their life actually put together, someone who's actually free and happy. And there's also this mention of like this black tear inside of her, opening her up and waiting to swallow her whole. It's like this metaphor for depression, but it would have been so much cooler if there was like a real alien growing inside of her waiting to take over. I don't know, something cool could have happened, but instead Eggers goes for the very overdone and very easy route of humans are inherently evil, evil is banal, and the this could be you bullshit that is honestly so boring and predictable at this point. So the conclusion. Anyway, that's The Circle. I don't think that it's very good, and I don't recommend reading it, but if you want to, and if you're curious, go for it. And if you've already read the book or have seen the movie, yes, there's a movie with Emma Watson and Tom Hanks, and I've probably been using some images from the movie that I haven't seen in this video during the voiceovers. If you want me to watch the movie, I will. But if you've already watched the movie or read the book, let me know in the comments down below about what you thought of it, because I'm honestly very curious on how this book was received at the time it was published in 2013, which was only 7 years ago, but that's like a million years ago in like internet years and tech years. So yeah, I'm curious to know how it was received when it came out, and honestly, it doesn't hold up very well. I mean, the internet and tech moves way too fast, and I even think Eggers knows that. So I don't really know like what this book means or signifies, but like I said, I didn't like it. It's not good, but if you're curious, go check it out and let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a like, leave a comment, share it with someone, subscribe and ring the bell. And if you're new here, I post new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and the next video is going to be about Walt Disney and what's in a legacy. I'm so excited to talk about it, so I hope you are too, and to be notified, please subscribe and ring the bell. And yeah, I'll see you all in my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons and my subscribers, and I'll see you all in the next one.